But then he notes he might have to hurl and wonders if it's going to mess up his makeup or something like that, which, God, I've questioned that notion countless times on my nights out. Is this mascara going to run if I projectile vomit everywhere? And it does.
I mean, it's virtually your opening words to me every time we record.
Hey, happy day out there, folks in the listening sphere. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I am Andy. The man in plaid is John, and we are here
Oh,
to.
happy day.
Oh, happy day indeed. Uh, we're here to discuss some music, and John is going to pick something out for me to go off and listen to. But in order for me to do that, I will need to know the artist and the tune. So, John, please school me.
Have you heard of a band called The Stills?
I have heard of the band The Stills. I can't tell you with any certainty if I've heard any of their material, but if I have, it's probably been in passing. So I don't think I'm very, if at all, familiar with their songs specifically.
Well, now's the time to find out.
You damn right
Um,
it is.
and the track is Changes Are No Good.
Changes are no good. Right. How very progressive. Uh,
Yeah, that's
cool.
our district county's motto. Changes are no good.
Yeah. Status quo, please. Cool. I will go off and give this a listen. Come back and let you know what I think, my friend. Cool. It's nice. Nice little bass touch there. Yeah, so things kick off. We get these like lovely bits of guitar, right, where kind of like commingling with one another. And there's this like jangly chord progression. And then there's this really simple kind of gentle melody that plays along with it, and the two go really nice hand in hand. And from then, I think you get the drum beat that kicks in, sets the pace for the song. Very snary and hi hat driven beat. Yeah, everything sort of blossomed into this really pretty bright sound. Um, it's moving, but it's also got a bit of this tranquility to its sound. I think that's just the tone of the guitars lend themselves to that. So yeah, so far 30 seconds in, I'm liking what I'm hearing. All right, I can tell by the feedback that it's about to go into some other portion, or at least I'm like 90% sure that's what's happening. But our friend John, if you're new to the channel, at the beginning of certain episodes, he will quote a bit of lyrics from a song, some of which I'm familiar with, some of which I am not. And sometimes when there are songs that I'm not familiar with, they then later make an appearance on the channel as a suggestion from him to me. And this is one of those instances right now. I know that there's like, I'm a weekday on the weekends and I hate my best friends. I specifically remember they're interesting lyrics. And so they stick with me. So John, believe it or not, I do listen. Uh, and so that stood out to me. So now I already know that there's a connection point there. But that's really all I'm working with. So let's see where it goes from here. Let's take that back a little bit because, like I said, it sounds like it's about to culminate here into something. Space. What is that? It almost sounds like keyboards mimicking, like it's almost like a little digital xylophone or something. And the notes are so buoyant, it's like they're bobbing in the water there. All right, so sorry, I'm gonna take that back a little bit, just because I want to hear those come in again. I like that. Title. Ooh. Interesting little downshift there. I didn't expect it fits. I didn't expect that to be how they sort of segue out of that. He goes high with, what does he say? Something like change, see me change, I think is the other line in the chorus that isn't the title. Uh, and he goes up, and then the music kind of like goes slightly darker and down. And that's an interesting little, you know, turn of events that I didn't see happening. Great bass fill there. He goes down a little bit. Interesting. I love that. Nice melody on the guitar. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Simple song, some really not mind-blowing guitar in any way, but deft decision making on like what to do with melody, how to kind of you know, fit in these points of segue throughout the song. Really enjoyed that. Some nice but simple bass runs at points, specifically I think in the chorus. We caught some bits. Love that like wobbly, scratchy guitar bit. This is, I mean, I don't want to call it a lead, but it's as close to a lead as we're going to get probably. And, in the interest of fairness, it probably is a lead. It's just not your conventional one or the one that is conventional to me, I suppose. But I liked it a lot in there. Yeah, he also, he doesn't sound like him, but he sounds like he grew up at least listening to some Morrissey, in sort of, the airiness of his voice at times and sort of how he extended certain words. Again, the final product didn't sound like he had Morrissey's voice. I mean, Morrissey's voice is Morrissey's voice, and in this guy's voice is his. But it definitely sounded like there's possibly some influence there. So it wouldn't surprise me if this guy had grown up listening to the Smiths a bit. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the tune. It was good at what it was trying to be. So that's a success. Uh, I've only heard of the Stills, don't know much, if anything, about them. But I'm sure John can fill in that for me and tell me a bit more about this song and maybe the album on which it features. Logic will break your heart. That sounds like the most Morrissey of Morrissey lines ever. So uh, again, fortifying my theory. So let's go back, see if there's anything to that and much more with John.
Roger De Courcy, he's back, and Nicky the Bear. So you had to listen to Changes Are No Good by the Stills. What do you make of it all?
Well, things kick off, and there are these two lovely bits of guitar that commingle with one another. One providing this jangly chord progression, the other playing this simple and gentle melody that kind of glides over the surface of those chords. And these two combine to provide this really almost comforting sound. I don't know if it's comforting for me because this is sort of my wheelhouse, this kind of music, and it's just like, oh, okay. Even though I haven't heard this, I feel like I've been here before or like I'm
Yeah.
welcome. So then in comes this splashy drum beat that uses a lot of like semi-open hi-hat and snare work to keep things moving. And this motif continues to until close to like the 40-second mark, and then things cut out just so one of the guitar and just one of the guitars remains and bounces between these really simple single notes over top of this more stripped back subdued beat, and then enter the vocals and just a touch of bass I pick up at this point for the first time, really. Um, and it's at this point that I picked up where the breadcrumb trail you started with your lyric intro from several episodes ago left off. Because I catch the lyrics, "I am a weekday on the weekends, and I hate my best friends."
It's a great
And
line, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good. I remember you saying it and being like, "Damn, those are some pretty cool lyrics." So when I got him almost like what the second half of the first, a very short verse, I was like, okay, I know this. And you think I don't listen, John. I listen to you when you do your wild, crazy intros, half of which don't make any sense to me until they do.
Or
Until they do.
me.
Yeah. So we get this tiny shot of feedback that makes an appearance. And we all know what that means in the rock and roll world. Like a new part is about to take off here. So we get this, interesting little bit of demarcation here with the feedback. And this is sort of this little area of music sort of acts to separate the two verses, it feels like, because I think we go into the same motif as before, and we get this second verse, which is mostly made up, and there's also that part that kind of separates them two is kind of made up of this buzzing, fuzzy guitar motif that sort of like meanders a little bit between notes, with some slight resonance before shifting back or shifting into this next verse that I alluded to a moment ago. And then around the 113 mark, we get this really interesting melody played by what sounds like keys kind of bobbing along the surface of the song. And it almost sounds like some sort of it doesn't sound like it, but it sounds like a digital version of like a xylophone or the notes on a xylophone. It's really interesting to me the way it just bobbles along. I
To
love that.
me, in my head, I always picture someone with an accordion. But,
Yeah, okay, there you go. Oh, it probably easily translate to either of those two instruments.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so your man wraps up this verse with this falsetto delivery of the word, I think, heart, which is soon punctuated by fleeting but this tight little drum fill, like and it's on the snare, and that opens up the curtains to the chorus, which is more open and spacious in its sound. And I catch him repeat a couple of times, "See me change, changes are no good." There's also some interesting bass fill work, or like this little run he does. I don't
Mm.
know if it's after like the word change or good, but it comes in there, and I noticed it, and I really like that. He then delivers one more "see me change," like he like sort of goes up and extends the word change, which kind of takes his voice up, but then interestingly, the song downshifts. Like the chord goes darker, and which is interesting because he goes up and it goes down, and it has this Pavlovian thing in me where I think the music is going to go up because he's gone up, and it's like a little foreshadowing. But no, they kind of like tricked me on that one, which I liked. It was actually a welcome bit of trickeration. And we get this like dark chord while this more melodic guitar noodles about beneath it. And I actually liked this decision because it caught me a bit unaware or it played against my own expectations while still fitting and making sense within the confines of the song that they've created to this point. So more of this buoyant keyboard work enters as he delivers what I believe is the third verse, in which he asserts, "All the world's deranged and I'm left crushed," uh, and then discusses however however is in a like something about being in a rush and he is on a roll. I think I didn't catch all the lyrics, obviously. But then he notes he might have to hurl and wonders if it's going to mess up his makeup or something like that. Which, God, I've questioned that notion countless times on my nights out. Is this mascara going to run if I projectile vomit everywhere? And it does.
mean, it's virtually your opening words to me every time we record.
Like, exactly. If I barf, do you think my mascara is going to? Yeah. Um, it's the problem of wearing guy liner. You never know when you're going to throw up. So, another chorus, and then this really interesting wobbly guitar lead thing.
Mm.
I don't want to call it's not a lead by any conventional terms, but I think it's a lead nonetheless. Again, not around very long. I could have actually done with a little bit more of that, but it was cool and I really liked it. So then we get a bit more of I think that we get reintroduced to the chorus, then a bit more jamming out after this final, more full sounding chorus, and the song slows itself down to an end. And I really enjoyed it. I gotta say though that he didn't sound like a cheap copy of the man, but he did have just a dash of "I grew up listening to the Smiths," to the sort of melodramatic lyrics. Some
And a
of
bit
which
of
I thought,
vulnerability in his voice,
yeah, the
yeah.
vulnerability in his voice.
Hence that there.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So yeah, it sounded like a guy that grew up admiring Morrissey, which is totally fine. I mean, it sounded good. And there were great drums, some nice little bass work, as I noted, and the guitars really shined for me. It was good stuff, man. I liked it.
Cool, excellent. Um, yeah, I had listened to this album this is from for in ages, and I listened to it, I don't know, 3, 6 months ago. And I'm starting listening to it. I'm thinking, this is fucking excellent. Why don't I listen to this all the time? I have to say, the first half of this album is as good as it gets for that era. It's really good. And then it does peter out a bit in terms of the quality. The first 4 songs, at least, and a couple of others, really, really good, really strong. So, yeah, I'll tell you a bit about them. So, this is a Canadian indie rock band from Montreal, Quebec. What's that all about? They formed into. I have to say that every time
Of
Canada's
course,
mentioned.
of
Sorry,
course. It's always
sorry, Canada.
a boot in
Yeah.
sorry.
So they formed in the year 2000 and split in 2011. Personnel: Tim Fletcher vocal for this album and this track. Tim Fletcher vocals, Dave Hamlin drums, keyboard, guitar, vocals, Greg Paquet lead guitar, Oliver Crow bass, and Liam O'Neill keyboards. He did keyboards in about 4 tracks on this album, this being one of them. He then became a full member on the following album. This track is the second single from their debut album, Logic Will Break Your Heart, in 2003.
John,
Um,
I remember seeing that in the thumbnail as well and being like, that's also a very Morrissey line.
yeah. It's actually the lyrics to the second track off the album called
Okay.
Gender Bombs. Um, I have to say, when I got this album, I bought it, I think on impulse. Don't believe anything led me to it. I just really like the cover. It might have been around the time, I'm just trying to think, when they used to have listening posts in like HMV. I did that. It was only about like a handful of albums I actually bothered to do that with. I think this might have been one, but yeah, it opens with Lola Stars and Stripes, which is a really cool song. Gender Bombs, which is excellent. This song, Love and Death, and then yeah, we'll leave it. But yeah, so is the second single. I do have it on 7 inch. And there we go. This is. And kind of those graphics pervade throughout their stuff. And a couple of the feathers is really cool. I think there's a Mimi Rivington album that's very similar, which they kind of copied the design of with the feathers. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, this album scored 79 with Metacritic. And it would have been a lot more because pretty much everyone was going eights and nines, nine and a halves. But for one outlier website, who could it be? Yes, it was a wanky review from Pitchfork's William Bowers. It was a truly, if you read it, it's truly awful. It's the journalistic equivalent of shitting in your own hands and then clapping for attention. Anyway. So, little snippet from All Music. And they said they flirt with a dark art pop design, not unlike Interpol. But the Stills approach is tangible. Singer guitarist Tim Fletcher gives a warm, haunting delivery as the band molds a blackish romance through the dozen-track set. It's a fantastic pop record, and as much as some would like to disagree, these Canadians pull off a sound that has nothing to do with New York City. Um, I kind of get what he says there because it is similar in some of the tracks in sound to Interpol. They're coming from the same place, but it's
Yeah.
just their influences: Joy Division, Knock on the Bunnyman, etc. This doesn't sound like it comes out of New York City, whereas Interpol really does, and that's the difference. Similar, but not the same. Drowned in Sound. This is a really nice little snippet of a review. They say the Stills are a sad band, which 9 times out of 10 makes them better than happy bands. Warped logic? Have you seen the world out there? You're reading an online interview of a band that has sold not too many more than Dickel records to the population at large. I'm kind of assuming that you're not a Cheeky Girls fan. You know the score. We need sad bastard indie records like we need big overcoats in the eternal winters of our soul. Even better when they're very good sad bastard indie records. There you go. That's a
Yeah.
glowing endorsement there.
That's great.
So yeah, lyrics. I wear a smile. I wear a laugh. On in the backstage, changing heads. I am a weekday on weekends. I hate my best friends. Spoken, choked up on my notes. This heart drones as I try and act adult, but like a Walkman falls to pieces. All parts, no heart. See me change, changes are no good. See me change, changes are no good. See me change. All the world's deranged and I'm left crushed. People delayed or in a rush, but I'm on a roll. But I might throw up. Will I ruin my makeup? See me change, change a little bit good. See me change a little good. Repeats 3 more times. And that's it. Yeah, I really like this song. It's just nice. It's got some nice elements to it. It's not particularly complicated or anything. It's just got a good sort of indie poppy feel to it around that time. It's yeah, it's decent, and it's a bit more upbeat than sort of Interpol, but it comes from the same roots, so I
Yeah.
get a lot.
And while none of the musical decision making in this is mind blowing or, charting new territory, there are really nice, subtle, deft decision making when it comes to like fills here or an added sound here to add some new life to a part that would otherwise be repetitious because it had featured earlier. So they do these things to keep everything a little fresh and new and different. And it's all subtle and not over the head, but it's still really really good and wholly enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. I think the production on this is really good, clean. It's not change your life music, but it is don't change that dial music.
Yes, yeah, that's
Anyway.
actually excellent. God damn, they need to hire you over there at Pitchfork.
So, just running on the narrative, Paquet left the band in 2005 to finish his university degree, and Hamlin moved from drums to guitar and took most of the vocal lead duties for the second album, which is called Without Feathers, 2006. It's a decent album, actually. It marked a big change in the sound. They moved away from this 80s influence post-punk revivalism to like this happier, more rootsy Americana orientated approach. And it is decent. It's very different. It is cool. And of course, different singer as well. So you've got a different kind of voice from this sort of like vulnerable, affected voice to this one is a bit more bouncy. And then the third album, Emotions Will Rise, was released in 2008. It saw Fletcher reinstated as the main vocalist, and it blended the two previous styles into sort of a sort of compote of the two. Um, and in the following year, the Stills were awarded two Juno Awards for that album, Ocean Will Rise. And in the categories of, remember, they've been going since 2000, and this is their third album. Best New Group and Best Alternative Album. But, bless them for catching up at last. In 2010, the band announced that Paquet was rejoining the band. He's obviously finished his degree. So Hamlin goes back to drums. He's lost his singing gig and now he's lost his guitar gig and he's back on the drums. And I guess it didn't work out so well because the following year they announced on the site they had officially disbanded.
Yeah, yeah. It sounded like with all this bouncing back and forth that there would probably be some
You
bruised
could tell
egos.
it's going to happen. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Hamlin and
yeah.
Fletcher went on to do various projects, and O'Neill actually played on Kings of Leon's 2010 album, Come Around Sundown,
Oh,
and is currently a touring member of the band.
nice.
So he's done all right.
Yeah, he's landed on his
I
feet.
mean, not my favorite output from Kings of Leon, but they're
Yeah.
certainly bringing in the greenbacks. So
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned Kings of Leon though, because when you had earlier had said about like best new artist or whatever, like I think they were getting some of those accolades here when they had already had some success over there.
yeah,
Because like they're
probably their third or fourth album, I
yeah, it
guess.
was like,
Yeah,
oh my God, we got this great new act. It's like, dude, they've got like 3 albums under their belt or whatever. They've been around a minute. They're already
I know.
popular in a whole nother goddamn country, and you're telling me that they're new? Like, but yeah,
Again,
it's funny what they said.
thanks to the wonderful Jules and their appearance
Yeah.
on later, I think really sparked their thing over here. But yeah, so that's the Stills. Not a lot really about them. I think they seemed this album really good, really enjoyable. First few tracks. It was tossed up between this and another track. So see how the folks out there like it. But I might give you another one from this album because it's decent stuff. It's not
Yeah.
nothing too taxing either, but it's pleasant to listen to.
Oh, please chuck it up there.
Great. I shall wrap things up and say thanks for listening, Sandy.
Thank you.
Thanks out there. Tell us what you think. You familiar with the Stills? I'm sure some of you will be. This song, this album, I think, as I say, the first 4 tracks or so are really, really strong. You may have differing opinions, almost certainly. Please let they be known. Drop some comments, hit the like button, subscribe, fold up your clothes, shine your shoes, get a haircut, get a mortgage. Oh God, I sound like the bit out. Well, anyway. But yeah, all those good things. And yeah, thanks again so much for watching. And we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.